Happy Tuesday. Happy MBA week. I'm just waiting for my good friend Ben to hop on the line too. So in the meantime, we'll let everyone get settled, get together. If anyone wants to tell me where they're dialing in from right now or anything fun about their day, the chat is open. But we'll get started in the next few minutes. Thanks so much for joining. And midday Tuesday, maybe late day for some of you. Utah, love. I'll be there in a few weeks. Brazil. Ooh, wait, okay. Every place that's been mentioned, I think, is very cool. Okay, France. Wow, we've really started to just cover the map already. I'm from Illinois too, Mira, so. Also, just make sure you're like off mic unless we'll have time for some questions potentially at the end. So, but in the meantime, if you can stay muted, it's perfect. Oh, hey, Ben.
Hello, Claire. What's going on?
Not too much. I'm just asking people where they're dialing in from. And we have literally, I think we already have almost every continent has been mentioned. We're still waiting. Oh, every continent has been mentioned. Thank you, Indonesia.
We got Antarctica. It's great.
No Antarctica, but I think that's okay. It'd be a really long way to go to get to their MBA program. A little too far. It's a little too warm here.
Cool.
Well, amazing. Thank you all for joining. We'll give it maybe 1 or 2 more minutes for everyone to just trickle in. But we're super, super excited to be here today.
Yep. Everybody let me know, keep me honest if I try to share this and it doesn't. So
we're coaches, not tech wizards.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
Let's see what you can do.
How's that?
Looks good. And I think we are both pinned. Can everyone thumbs up if we're both pinned also? You only see us?
Wow. Okay. This is
amazing. Oh, wow. Some good thumbs.
Cool.
Okay. Amazing. Let's give it maybe 1, 2. The number's still just consistently ticking up. So let's go another minute or 2 and then we'll go. Yeah. New York, love. That's where Ben's dialing in from too. Anyone in
Brooklyn too.
Brooklyn. Morocco.
How have you guys liked the kickoff events so far? Thumbs up, thumbs down. What do we think? Okay, cool. There's really only one right answer to that question, but it's all good. Great.
Thank you. I just got my hair braided literally yesterday. It's so nice. Thank you, Mohammed. Nice. It means so much.
Cool.
Okay, I think we're at 75. I think it's going to keep ticking up over the course, but we have a lot to cover today. So let's just kind of get together. Let's start getting through this so that we can make sure that we have time to learn as much as we can about writing a holistic set of essays with top GSB coaches. As a heads up, we're going to be having a little bit of a GSB focus today, as you can tell by the name. But what we talk about today is going to be broadly applicable as you think about writing essays for any school. And so just take that in mind. As many of you just thumbs up for us, we're part of and just at the beginning of an amazing MBA week hosted by Leland. We're one of the first events on Tuesday. So if you want to just rip it all week, you've got another 6, 7 more events that you can be a part of. And really, truly recommend it. I think Leland is an amazing place. I wish that I had a Leland when I was back applying for school. And so just soak in as much information as you can. Super recommend it. But yeah, you're sitting with us today, early on Tuesday, and we're excited to chat a little bit more today. So just to quickly cover the agenda. Oh, Ben's excited for me to introduce myself. We're going to do a quick welcome and overview about writing some essays, give you the main key pointers, do some myth busting on the writing process. And then we're going to actually go into a very, very successful applicant that Ben worked with this past cycle, was able to get admitted to all M7. We both have a couple of them, and it's just like when an essay works, it really, really works. And then we'll leave some room for final thoughts and Q&A, but we're going to go deep today and we're going to see what it takes to write a killer essay to get you into those top MBA programs.
Yeah. And as Claire and I were designing this too, I think part of the motivation here is we've often shown, an essay type, let's say like the What Matters Most essay, pretty well known for GSB. We've shown multiple examples of that, but we've heard from a lot of people that it might be even more helpful to see one full candidate's actual application and the core stuff that made it what it was. So instead of taking a deep dive into one essay across 4 different candidates, we're doing 4 essays or so across one candidate.
And that'll really help you see kind of how they build and work together and how you make a holistic view.
Mm-hmm.
So to quickly introduce myself, I'm Claire. I'm a coach here on Leland. I'm currently getting my joint degree, an MBA and an MA in education at Stanford GSB. I'm also a Knight Hennessy Scholar, so I'm also very big on fellowships if anyone is interested. Before that, I graduated from Dartmouth, where I was a history and Native American studies major, had never heard of business, but pivoted into it as a consultant at Bain, did some ESG and impact work in tech, and did some tech investing, and then was doing some storytelling at Nike this past summer. Absolutely have been loved coaching. For me, like the minute I got in as a deferred candidate, 6 years ago, to date myself, I just started helping all of my friends really informally, was just getting as many people in as I could to these types of programs, and then formalized it through Leland and have had like the most amazing time helping people. We just finished up another deferred run, and it was just an amazing, amazing time to be a coach. That's a bit about me. Ben?
Claire, I don't think we're that much different in terms of age, but like you really make me feel like 47. So that's awesome. I also will say I got a soft spot for the dual degrees. I think it's an awesome opportunity if you guys are thinking about applying to multiple. About me, guys, I worked at first off, grew up in Queens. I love the area. If you guys are from the Queens Long Island area, it's a blast there. But I almost felt like I wanted more, and so I went to WashU for undergrad. Absolutely loved it. For any St. Louis people, but started my career at McKinsey and spent a couple of years there. Actually got a lot out of it. And then joined full time in the mayor's office of Chicago to further a lot of the stuff I wanted to do in real life policy work. And then did my own MBA at GSB. 6 years ago was a very interesting time, Claire, because I applied like a regular person full time, and I had never even heard of 2+2, but I matriculated in fall of 2019 and was there till 2021. Absolutely loved it. Kind of similar to Claire in some respects, like kind of had no idea about certain parts of the world and how it functioned. VC, private equity, startups. This stuff was pretty out there to me, and all just felt very theoretical until I started doing it in practice. And so since then, I've worked on a number of different ventures, do a lot of writing, and so it's nice to just be here and also have Leland be a big part of life, where I can work with a lot of people on their own stories, help them craft their own next steps in their career. And frankly, a lot of the MBA coaching process, guys, it's not just, hey, how do we get in? That's a big part of it. Outcomes is how we anchor ourselves as coaches, at least the ones that are really invested in the people that they work with. But it also is an awesome exercise for you to find some direction, to orient yourself a little bit. I've found that the people that I've worked with, and I think Claire probably feel the same as you start to see more people like go through the program. It's such an interesting thing.
Yeah.
They really are deliberate about their time because they were organized. They put together applications that were thoughtful and almost served as a preamble to their own time in the MBA experience.
Totally.
I'll stop there. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's an absolutely amazing experience. I think about the amount of reflection that you're able to do when writing these essays and applying. It's like it's a stressful time, but it can be the most amazing opportunity to be more deliberate in the way you make decisions. You think about your relationships, think about the way you're interacting with the world. And one thing that I think a coach would have helped me do a little bit better when I was applying was do that in a deliberate and really like productive, measured way to keep going forward that way. But thanks, Ben. That's always great to hear. Every time you introduce yourself, I'm like, oh.
I try to spice it up, say one or two new things, All right.
Okay, let's jump in. Bust some myths.
Yeah, guys, I think the essay writing process, I don't know if you guys feel this way. I started my essay writing process in the most productive way possible, which I'm sure you guys all know, which is Reddit. Went on Reddit, and I was like, hey, what are people saying? Like, what do I got to do? What do I say to get in? What are the right things to say? What are the right things to write? Do I even have a shot? Am I the type of person that part of my background feels too traditional? Part of it, I don't even know if it's relevant. How does policy look to a business school? And I didn't have a ton of opinions. I had one or two people that I trusted as I was going through this process. But I want to make a few things clear that I think, and Claire will jump in as well, especially around background. But it's hard to know when you are going through the application process what to believe and what not to believe. So we think this slide's important because they just remove a lot of the mental noise, a lot of the things that you shouldn't be worrying about in this process, especially as it pertains to essays. First thing we'll start with, there is no just like one path in. You're not going to if you get a perfect score on the GRE, Not only does that not guarantee you're going to get admitted to business school, that's barely the starting point of your application. If you speak to a bunch of alums at a certain school, that's great. That can influence your application. That can be helpful as you go about writing your essays, but that's not going to get you in. And even a perfect essay on its own is not going to be the only thing that you need. For these top tier programs, you really need a well-rounded application. This is a lot where coaching comes in, but one thing or one facet is never going to be the reason on its own that you make it. You really need to be strong across the board if you want to actually end up in a place like GSB or the top programs. Go for it, Claire.
I think, and to talk about like, what about my background and a bit about that? I remember like when I heard about business school, I was like, I can't get into business school. I don't have X background. I don't know A, B, C, D. And the best thing that I ever was told and that I tell every single person I work with is you do not have to be the one to disqualify yourself from your dreams, right? The only thing we can do is take our background, take what we have, and we can present it in the best way physically possible. We can create the strongest package of you, again, with your great GMAT score or less than great GMAT score, with the gaps in your background or the strengths in your background. And you do not have to be the one to decide whether you can get in. That's what they have a whole admissions committee to do. So what we say is what's important is to understand your background holistically. Think about your strengths, your weaknesses, the things that have made you uniquely and distinctly you and changed the way that you think. And think about it more than that. You're not just a consultant. It's the cases that you've seen and the skills you've built and the experiences you've had on those cases that have fed into you. You're not just a non-traditional applicant. You actually have new and additional strengths and skills that maybe not everyone else has. So background alone isn't going to get you in. Having every blue chip name won't do it. Same with not having every blue chip name. It's really about how we present you and how we think about that. And the essays are, as we talk about later, are really going to be the best way to give your voice and tell your story to present your best case.
Mm-hmm. Really, really well said. There's just no background that's automatically in or automatically out. And I love the idea of just not self-selecting. Also, just the last thing here, these apps, we see a lot every year just as coaches, people who start incredibly early, people who start kind of in the middle, people who start, right at the finish line. These apps really take effort. There's a reason on certain recipes when you're cooking, it says, let marinate for 45 minutes. These things need time. These things actually require multiple iterations and drafts. They're not something, there's not something that, yeah, Claire, me too, honestly. Like I was right at the buzzer. But I will say that what I've found is the people who are working towards the finish line, they are fully sending it. They have completely dedicated that period of time to doing the applications. But even still, I think you can just do better. And running a thorough process. And even when I think about my own application, there's so many things that I wish I could have improved. And I reread my app, at one point a couple of years ago with another person I was working with, and I found so many ways to improve it that if I was working with a coach, would have not only made it better, but also just frankly just giving me better odds at all the schools I was applying to.
And the thing I'll say about this is like, and I'm curious if anyone wants to tell me in the chat, but if you're on the call at this point, if you're at this MBA week, you are in a great place in terms of time, right? Like if you're thinking about round 1, round 2, you are in a really great position to give yourself the time and the energy to put in the right amount of work over a regular amount of time. We don't have to sprint. We don't have to do whatever. Even if you haven't written a single thing down, you are already doing the thing, like Ben said. So this is an amazing, even for round 2, you've got plenty of time. Especially for round 2. For round 1, though, you still have the ability now to put in the work, to put in the time, and to keep moving forward. And the iterative process is important. And so, like, this is going to be some work, there's going to be some effort, but it can have, as I'm saying, like in my last term at the GSB, I think some of the highest yield payoff of like one of the best 2 years and really catapulting my career. And so it's an investment. It's a real time effort, but if you can get the results, it's like pays dividends within the first day.
Mm-hmm. Totally. All right. So hopefully those myths and getting those out of the way was helpful, guys. We also want to jump in now to the main essay types that you're going to encounter. We talked a lot about the noise, but what about the actual content? So what matters most is a pretty important essay. In fact, I would say it's the core of your GSB application. I typically recommend people, if they're applying to a bunch of schools, this is a great question to start with that can really anchor your app and get you focused on the most essential parts that make you who you are. This is not the only thing that matters in your application, but this is a question about your values, your character, how your experiences map to those things that you admire, the things that you've grown and done. It's an essay that can take many, many forms, some pure structured, some less so. But it's really all about, are you telling us not what matters a little bit, not what matters somewhat, but like the core thing? If you could describe yourself in a word potentially, what is that? What is the genesis of who you are? And extrapolate to your experiences, personal and professional. You put evidence to that in the essay, you're going to be in a great spot. Claire, let's talk about. Oh, go ahead.
Let's talk about the why of the school. But I think, think about it in terms of word count. Just like Ben said, this is like especially at GSB, this is the bulk of your application, right? It's the bigger section. They recommend it be about 650 words, while your why this school, which I'll talk about, is shorter. They really want to get your essence. And if you think about it, you have your resume, you have recommenders, you have your test scores, you have all these experiences of you in the abstract, but the what drives you type question is really, really important, because what it can do is it can thread together every single piece of your application, and it can give the why and the what is powering you and take you from a bunch of really impressive, cool things into a well thread together narrative. And so if we think about that, so you've explained kind of who you are, what matters to you, what's so important. The next thing that you're going to see at almost every school as well is the why X school specifically. And so we're talking about Stanford, right? So I've explained that this is what matters to me. This is what drives me. I'm not now going to just go write a boilerplate essay from ChatGPT that says, here's like Stanford has touchy-feely, Stanford's in California, Stanford's small classes, right? No, I'm going to take my what matters most, my what drives me essay, and I'm going to explain, if that's why I'm now here applying to business school, this is why Stanford specifically, or Harvard, or whatever you're looking at, is the perfect place for me to continue on that journey, and why I need to be there to continue learning. And so it's about describing your aspirations, how Stanford will specifically help you realize them. And then thinking about how you can describe that associated with your long-term goals, who you are, and what it can help build and facilitate. Again, so if we're thinking about ourselves holistically, like, let's say I'm like the most passionate person in the world, but I had like very little business experience when I was applying. But I could say, I know I'm going to make impact. I know I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Stanford's going to give me the tools to blend my impact with my business and make me the perfect person, right? And so that's how those two start to come together holistically.
Sure. I also think this is a great opportunity. My saying when I work with people on this essay is, I want to take you from sounding like an applicant to sounding like an alumni. Do you speak with the fluency of somebody who's already on campus or who has been on campus? Have you actually taken the time to think, is that random resource actually a way that I would channel what I care about through the school to achieve the long-term vision I'm hoping to achieve? If you can't map it that neatly, back to the drawing board. You need new examples. You need something more specific. You'll see in the essays that we go through, especially, how a person with a background, some people might even constitute as traditional, takes GSB and makes it their own. And they want to see what your adventure would look like in the really what is only 2 years, and honestly a little bit less if you don't count the summers. Okay, so Claire, what are your goals? What's your vision, right? Like, I think this, I think we'll see an example of this. There's a lot of schools, guys, where there's much more space for this essay. I want to say like a Kellogg has like 500 words. Stanford has 250 characters with spaces. Why? Because they kind of expect you to have sort of answered that question and like talked about how you're going to channel GSB to achieve what you want to achieve. Your so what of your what matters most essay should be in your why GSB, but they really love this small question in particular, this very briefly share your short and long-term aspirations, because it's kind of like a synopsis of the why GSB, or the of all of the things that you could say. Here's one sentence, maybe two, that would describe what the heck you're doing applying to this school and where you want to go. So yeah, this I think is a nice, like, kind of like, think of it as your personal headline.
Yeah, the personal headline is great. I almost think of it like, this is probably actually going to be more confusing, but if I think about the what matters most as the why. It's the why of everything you're doing. It's the why of everything. Mm-hmm. The GSB, why GSB, is almost the how. It's like, how am I going to get there? Blah, 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 blah. And the what are your goals is the what. What are we aiming at? What are we doing? What's the answer? And so it's, the order is almost backwards, but it's also the correct way to do it, right? You're leading them up. Here is all of why. Here is the how. And then here is exactly what I'm going to do with all of those experiences, past, and future to become the best version of myself and the highest impact individual. And here's why there's no reason that Stanford shouldn't take me and help me do that.
Mhm.
And then I think this, to me, the last one is like almost like some examples, right? It's this, tell us about a specific experience or situation. For GSB specifically, you get asked to include 1 to 3, whether you want. I usually say 3 if you can make it. Impact essays is what they're called. And the question is, think about times when you've created a positive impact, whether professional, extracurricular, academic, or other settings. And what was the impact and what's made it significant? In terms of that, also, Ben, you know your screen sharing's up.
Yep.
Okay.
All good.
Oh, no, good. In terms of that, exactly like that. So if we've explained all of it, this is your moment to really start to show and share how you've put this into practice, how you have like developed your narrative and yourself, and teach about the things that you've learned and done. And it gives you a chance to kind of brag on yourself, to be honest. It doesn't have to be the most impressive thing you've done, but it's important to have something where you can show that you can do things, or like things happen. You can understand the impact of your actions and potentially a learning or a takeaway or the thing you did. So for me, I usually tell my clients, like, it doesn't have to be this amazing, crazy, world-changing. You don't need to get a Nobel Peace Prize for this. It could be one specific thing that you did at work, because what it shows was your leadership, your ownership, your drive, whatever it takes. You can find the right things. And it's about thinking about which experiences will supplement everything else you've said in the past 3 essays or 3 pieces, and add and build on those experiences even more.
Yeah, I also would say, I think of this kind of like these impact essays. I honestly think they came about because they saw a lot of people trying to cram everything they've ever done into their What Matters Most essay. So you can think about these impact essays as another place where you can demonstrate even another side to you, or showing the same experience through a different lens. It's a good place that you can toss those things where you're like, doesn't quite make it into my What Matters Most. Maybe it's my 4th example, but I still want to talk about it somewhere in my application. Awesome. Great. Define the impact, talk about what happened, and then quantify that. That's the perfect. Go ahead.
Totally. I think like we're actually getting quite close to getting into the candidates essay, which I'm very excited. But I think just like to think about this all holistically, right? So using those like ideas of these building, what I have all my clients do and what I personally did was like, think about those like 3 words, or think about that headline that Ben talked about who you are. Like, how, if you had an admissions committee sitting around the table, how would they describe you in a few words, in 1 sentence? And while we're writing, like, as you see, 4 different, basically 7 different essays, if you think about the impacts individually, what we're trying to do is not be overly redundant. You don't have to say the same thing a million times. You don't have to do this, but you want that one headline, like phrase or qualities about yourself to be embedded and shown and developed throughout these stories, throughout these essays. And so really, really what is important is when they look at it, they shouldn't be looking at any individual one without knowing that it's you, right? So like they want to be able to look at your why Stanford in a vacuum and go, oh, that's Claire's why Stanford, right? That's Claire's What Matters Most. That's her long-term plan. It should feel authentic to you. It should feel cumulative, and it should feel holistic.
Perfect.
And Ben wants to see your face if you didn't see that in the chat. So
yeah, guys, honestly, it's not fair, right? Oh, hello, Lessa. Thank you for a nice wave. We love a quality wave. What is it, Tuesday? Yeah, quality wave. Okay. So, guys, I can't wait to get into these actual essays. This is also a person I was working with where I didn't know how they were going to do. I'm being completely honest. I felt confident and I felt like we had done all the right things. But honestly, guys, even as a coach, you're pulling for your candidate. Sometimes like the people that you work with that don't even get in, you feel that, like you really do. And so when I was working with this person, we spent 4, 5, 6 months on her application, thinking about all the ways that she could possibly present herself, present her application. And frankly, we landed on something that was pretty genuine. But that is, and fully genuine, honestly. It was actually the writing process. And this stems from step 1, which is she was very anxious about differentiating herself. Her writing process felt to me like osmosis, like trying to get stuff out of your system, trying to write that crappy essay that sounds like a resume dump come to life, or writing that thing that like is a little bit of a vague description of the experience that you had, and assuming that the writer, or the reader rather, is going to understand exactly what you put on paper, even though they lack the context. So she felt she was a little bit too traditional. She genuinely felt like she wasn't good enough a lot of the time. And she felt confused on how to stand out. And again, sometimes standing out just as a matter of just staying in the pocket and just staying right there and just going about the writing process. I would also say this is a person, she got into all these top programs. Frankly, we were even surprised. Like, we were like, no way. Like, she kept sending me like updates over emails. Like, I got another interview. I got this scholarship. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And part of that is because there's a lot of cynicism and there's a lot of rightful conversation amongst candidates about scores, GPA, and numbers, facts, and backgrounds, and all these things, undergrad, right? She didn't go to like the greatest undergrad in the universe. She went to a very, very, very good school, but it isn't named Harvard. And she also had a GPA that was very solid, but nothing crazy. And her GRE was actually below the median for Stanford at the time. So this isn't somebody who got in, by leaning on their scores or leaning on their background. But she is probably the most persistent, organized, and proactive person I've worked with to date. She would come with these agendas that I would be like, hey, I don't even know if we can cover this in 90 minutes. Like, this is great. But there were tons and tons of iterations that we did both live and asynchronously. And frankly, it was a confidence building process as much as it was a writing evolution. So it was a pleasure to work with her, but she truly did write her way out of her problems. So it was like V8, I want to say, where we were like, okay, this is starting to come to form. We start to see that this is actually a powerful, compelling applicant.
Yeah. And I think that one thing I'll say about that, Ben, is it's funny. I'm smiling because that reminds me so much of my, I had a candidate basically the exact same in round 2 this year who was like, unfortunately, actually, her scores were super low. Like, her GPA, I think, was what people on Reddit would have like disqualified yourself for. And I think her GRE was like at median, so it was fine. But she was just really nervous that she didn't have it. And what she did have was grit, story, and the ability to be humble, to be humble and to ask the questions and to ask for help and to take the time to invest in herself, whether Reddit was telling her she had the perfect scores or not. We just worked. We made a plan. We stuck to it. We were ready. There were times we were like, you know what? We're scrapping this. We're starting over. We're doing it again. She was there. She was investing in herself, and she didn't let that get into her head. And she had some of the best essays. She got into every school she applied to. And there's something about that to me that's like, the most important thing about these essays is time, effort, and really being reflective and making sure that you put your best foot forward. And we're going to see that. I've read through these ones that Ben put, and they're amazing. And so we're really excited to dive in and to kind of go through these with you guys.
Totally. Oh wait, there's this big sign. There's this big giant sign on the highway. What does it say?
Reminder, it doesn't matter if you like the essay. What matters is understanding why it works. This candidate, well, I already told you, it worked for 7 admissions committees. So I want you to understand, and like, everyone has their styles. I have essays I read that I don't personally love, but I know why they work. I know why the things that are being said are important and matter. So when you're reading these, when we're reading them and talking through them, stylistic things, little things, you might not like them, and that's valid. But what we need to understand is that there are key things that this candidate did that just worked. And so we're going to talk them, we're going to pull them out, but leave the little bit of like judgment editing at the door here, and we'll talk through them.
Yeah. And frankly, I think that's really well said. And frankly, I would just add, like, from a perspective, from like a learning point of view, one thing that I even had to do myself when I'm reading these essays, because we can't help but judge. We're judging creatures. That's what we do all the time. But think about it this way. You can either take these essays and you can say, I didn't like them, and throw them out. Or you can say, I don't like these essays, but like GSB did and HBS did and Wharton did. So how do I re-engineer the way that I think to incorporate these essays, as winning writing? Okay, let's dive in.
Okay, so what we're going to do here, I know some people like reading in their head, some people like being read to. We're going to read out loud. Feel free to tune us out for a couple of minutes and read yourself. We're going to read through the whole essay, switching off me and Ben, and then we're going to pull up. We want to hear some of your feedback in the chat about what worked well, what you liked. And we're also going to go through, kind of talk about some of the key elements of what was really, really impressive. And then we're going to keep doing that and build together to get to the 4 essays. And it's going to be super fun. So
yeah. Quick context, though, Claire. Quick context. You might see a couple LORs on the side here. This is just to give you guys a little added insight into what's a piece of these essays that their letter of rec also spoke to. Kind of, again, in the theme of holistic applications, where is she having tie-ins to her personal and professional experience? Just wanted to have that little nugget in there.
Totally.
Would also just say, guys, Don't, again, don't obsess over background. Don't feel like you have to screenshot these. There's a recording. Stay present, just stay listening. And honestly, we're going to read to you, which is, I mean, I don't read to a lot of people. Claire, I don't know about you. I don't do a lot of reading.
I didn't bring my little reading glasses, so I'm about to go really close to the screen,
For
but
sure.
we're ready, team. So just bear with me here. I'll kick us off. So actually, the prompt is, what matters most to you and why? For this essay, we would like you to reflect deeply and write from the heart. Once you've identified what matters most to you, help us understand why. See the why. You might consider, for example, what makes this so important to you? What people, insights, or experiences have shaped your perspectives? With that, I'm going to read the first one and then popcorn to Ben. How do you say chemotherapy in American Sign Language? As a hearing child of deaf adults, CODA, I grew up fluent in ASL. But as a teenager, the hospital's unfamiliar setting and endless medical jargon made me question whether I truly knew the language. A quick Google search answered my question. There's no sign for chemotherapy.
When my dad was diagnosed with a rare form of brain cancer, my parents were often unable to communicate with his doctors because hospital interpreters were unavailable. I spent many weekends serving as his interpreter, advocating for his needs as a deaf patient. Growing up at CODA, I witnessed the challenges my parents faced in navigating the hearing world. During family dinners, my parents shared how company videos often weren't captioned. They were regularly worried these exclusions would cause them to underperform, maybe even lose their jobs. Being a CODA taught me the importance of deep listening, helping me to center solutions around the specific needs of communities who have been far too often overlooked. In both my career and personal life, listening deeply has been what matters most to me.
At Middlebury, I studied supply chain and labor relations, applying deep listening to learn about cultures foreign to my own. I focused my honors thesis on how a US-funded international cooperative catalyzed Uganda's coffee industry. But the more I learned, the more I questioned this project's renowned success. The cooperative gave Uganda opportunities to establish major partnerships with companies like Starbucks, but did it actually improve the lives of everyday coffee farmers? To see for myself, I spent several weeks in Uganda's coffee growing villages, interviewing farmers about how the cooperative had impacted their lives. They shared a range of stories, but a unifying theme emerged. Since joining the cooperative, local food prices had continued to rise. An overproduction of coffee was causing Uganda to rely primarily on more expensive imports for staple foods. Their economy had changed, but farmers themselves were worse off. I saw firsthand how designing solutions to global challenges requires listening locally, something even world-renowned international development organizations often fail to account for.
I joined Elevate Advisors as a strategy consultant to tackle international development problems like this from the outside in, working with stakeholders to design social impact initiatives grounded in the needs of communities and their stories. As a part of Elevate's Justice, Equity, and Mobility practice, I work with the Rockefeller Foundation to operationalize a $100 million economic mobility initiative, the Ladder Alliance, to address foundational barriers to upward mobility in the US. I incorporated my deep listening skill set to lead over 30 interviews with economic mobility leaders across the country, learning about the struggles they faced in running their organizations, even welcoming their hesitations about the alliance itself. Many voiced their skepticism about whether an Elevate-funded organization would ever give local leaders the decision-making power they really needed. Months later, I reached back out to those I interviewed and shared how I incorporated their insights into the initiative's overarching structure. Many who were once skeptical of the alliance now serve on its steering committee, a much-needed mixture of local and national leadership.
Listening deeply has informed the way I've navigated my professional career, defines how I want to grow as a leader, and grounds the impact I hope to have on the world. By listening deeply, I'll bring together the power of the private and development sectors to address our most pressing global challenges.
All right, guys, what's working here other than our audiobook level narration? Oh my gosh, Claire.
I put a poll. I was curious who's better at reading.
Right, Claire,
Also, he's read this many times, you guys.
Oh gosh. Okay. All right, Claire, you win. You win. This is how this usually goes, guys.
No, who's whatever. Fine.
Oh, it's tied. It's tied, guys. Vote. Your vote matters.
Thumbs up if you think I'm a better reader than Ben. Clap
guys,
if you
national elections, local elections, there's millions of votes. There's like 6 votes here, guys. Look at the opportunity you have to influence outcomes in the world. Oh, you're voting for both. Oh, nice.
It's okay. There's a clear winner. We're at it. Okay,
right.
We can pause the voting. We're going to dig in. I would love to hear before we start to say anything, if you feel so what's the word? Inclined. Would love to hear people's thoughts in the chat. What worked well? Were there any things that really they liked that they I think mostly positive is going to be good. They liked here. And I would also love if anyone could say, like, I think it's very clear what matters most and what the why is here. So if anyone wants to type out what there is there too, like, what do we think this person's why is?
Yes. I love the hook, right? A question's a stake. I mean, like, bring your 8th grade lit stuff back. Let's go to take all the arrows in the quiver.
Yeah.
Yep.
ChatGPT could not have written this also is what's amazing, because this is a very like clearly personally written essay.
No chance.
Showing a decent theme of listening and showing the development. It's very personal. I think these are all great. Ben, I think let's dig in a little bit and maybe go through it in order, but I think exactly what you guys are saying, like right on this. So within the first 2 paragraphs, we know a ton about this person's background. They said it in a way that like was not trauma dumpy necessarily. This is a very heavy topic, right? Like, and first I'll say, like, not every essay has to feel like you have had this major struggle or overcoming, but if you have things that have built into who you are and how you view the world, if you feel the ability to and like the safety to say those things, this is a great place to let people know more about you. And so the thing for me is we learned so much. Ben, your face is so big right now. You learned so much about her. And one of the things that I love the most, though, at the end of this second paragraph is, without feeling like you're taking advantage of the story or making light to it, they start to pull it back and show the broader implication of this experience, right? The last sentence, which is, being a coder taught me the importance of deep listening, helping me to center solutions around the specific needs of communities who've been too far often overlooked. Started to set us up for, okay, this is truly the meat of it. It's not just this one experience, this like horrible experience that has happened to somebody. This is a learning that I've had from it. And then they go even further and introduce their why, which is, in both my career and personal life, listening deeply has been what matters most to me. So they use this, they ground it, the hook, they ground it in like, who are they? What is the most crucial background to them? And then they show how this isn't just an experience. It's this thematic why that we're about to learn in the rest of the essay, how it's informed the way that they've moved through the world.
Catherine, I love your point around the real estate here. And you know, the way that I think about sometimes these real estate questions, or these questions around like, where do I spend the most time? Where do I put my actual words? This was almost like her discovery process. She's asking questions and she's following the questions to the next step. Something wasn't working. Why? They show up. She starts talking to people. She hears something. She relays it back. This is how you actually get better. And she's showing you the listening locally process. She's not just telling you. She's actually bringing you into the investigative work like she's a detective trying to uncover some sort of mystery she doesn't understand.
And I think what's so interesting here too is, like, I've had candidates who have come to me very similar to this, where they're like, you know, I studied supply chain and labor relations, and then I did and then I worked in consulting, and like, where things that might not necessarily like feel super linked, right? Like, we're hearing this story and like, you're like, you know, you come and you're like, I've had all these experiences. And that's why what's so beautiful about this discovery process you did, Ben, is that you found the link that connects somebody who's studying, who is doing a thesis on a cooperative for Uganda's coffee industry, to somebody who is then like working in foundations and who is working to like change the world and do development. Like, the next sentence being supply chain and labor relations, you had done such a good setup that it made the different experiences flow so well together that I see holistically who this person is, even when we're checking through the things that you might, like when you're talking to a client, they'd be like, none of these really fit into like a perfect piece, you know?
And it really, like, this is where, frankly, at the very least, do it with a friend, where an expert coach really comes in, because I don't even necessarily think that any of the individual questions that I had asked her in this discovery process, or that Claire asked the other candidates that she worked with who got into all these schools, it was the collective continued pushing and understanding like who you actually are as a person. Because you're right, there's nothing that immediately connects the Ugandan farmer community to being a child of deaf adults, until you get to know somebody and you're working with them and you're understanding their way of thinking by listening to them describe their experiences over and over again. And then you're like, wait a minute, actually, it kind of sounds like you're somebody who likes to get real close. You don't just take things at face value. You want to You want to get deeper and you want to understand the reality of the situation.
Yeah. And it's also just beautifully written. Honestly, some of the like listening to hearing to it's a gorgeous, like, good job, Ben. Congrats. And then the last thing I'll say, but I want to, because we're doing this holistically, I want us to get to the next parts. But what you see here too, right? Super short essay, not a lot of time to like, this is not a 1,000-word essay. So she didn't logically, you think you maybe the next paragraph would have been like, what's she going to do? There's not that much time. So this was a really nice, concise, strong ending that leads into what we'll see in the next few essays with, listening deeply has informed this way. I'll bring together the power of the private and development sectors to address our most pressing. Not enough, like we didn't spend this essay because it's not what this essay is about at this moment to go into how is she going to do this? What's she going to do with that? All of these different things. Because right now, what we need to do is answer the what matters most to you and why, and give this, like, she gives like a nice little like snippet that's like, oh, you're going to see the rest of this throughout. And we're going to keep going then, unless Ben, I think, final wrap up thought, to see how that plays out the rest of the time.
This was draft 13. That's the last thing I will say. And draft 3 sucked. Draft 6 arguably sucked more. And we broke through eventually, and this essay just came to life in the matter of a week. So that's how it's going to feel. Let's keep rolling, because this event doesn't make sense if we just look at the what matters most on its own.
And this is how it's going to come together perfectly. So again, so we'll do this again. So why Stanford GSB? The question is simple. Describe your aspirations and how your Stanford GSB experience will help you realize them. So we're about to get a straight nod in. Here's the essay. Listening deeply and locally is what matters most to me. And I've seen how poorly managed global supply chains can create unintended inequalities. My time in Uganda proved a stark reminder that my coffee comes at the expense of farmers globally. And today's consumer products are often designed with a little regard for the communities sourcing these goods. During and after GSB, I want to channel my ground-up approach in the private sector to shape supply chain and sourcing practices. Post-GSB, I'll work in an operations and product development role at a consumer product company like NVIDIA to ensure that products are sustainable and ethically sourced.
Yeah. At GSB, I'll take courses such as Foundations of Supply Chain Management and Impact, taking social innovation to scale to learn how companies build supply chains and scale innovative products. Building on my global work with Elevate, Stanford's leadership courses and global management immersion experience, GMIX, will better prepare me to manage internationally compromised teams, a critical piece of any supply chain role.
Given supply chain's integral role within global emissions, I'll supplement my GSB coursework with classes across the street from Stanford's Door School to explore opportunities to decarbonize global supply chains. I'll also help organize the GSB's Climate Business and Innovation Summit. As a summit co-chair, I'll aim to bring Sarah Robertson, a GSB graduate and current vice president of NVIDIA's Environment and Supply Chain Innovation team, as a speaker for the summit's corporate panel.
With my research background, I'm excited about joining Stanford's Value Chain Innovation Initiative and learning from Dr. Erica Plambic, a leading researcher on supply chains and environmental sustainability. I hope to build on my Middlebury thesis in researching the impact of responsible supply chain programs on workers' livelihoods.
Outside class, I'll join the Impact Fund's Food and Ag team to source companies pioneering business models for sustainably sourced food. In my second year, I'll join the portfolio operations team, leveraging my background in impact measurement and management to ensure our portfolio companies accurately track and quantify the difference they're making.
Long term, after GSB, I aspire to take on a C-suite role like head of responsible sourcing for a global tech company. I'll work tirelessly to bring systemic change to the broader tech industry, forging global partnerships with other private sector companies, intergovernmental organizations, and NGOs to redefine industry standards for supply chain sourcing and sustainability. All right, guys, what did this person do well? Feel free also, if we maybe take one person, come off mute. If you got some quick thoughts, go for it.
Yeah, research is
Research.
Yeah, Lyle, good one. Yeah, tactical examples, smooth transitions. I think one thing that I think is important is it's not just precision and research, but it's directly tied, exactly like we just saw, smooth transition from the previous essay. Again, I picked this up and I know who wrote this based off of their what matters most. Like if I threw all the papers in the air, I could match them together and say, this is one cohesive person. It's also really smart because it takes you from having like 1,000 words where you have to like restate yourself and redo it. When you nod back, you basically don't have to re-explain a lot of that context, right? We already know the listening locally and deeply. We don't have to think about why that matters anymore. We can spend the entire real estate on the how of this is how I'm going to do it. This is where I'm going to do it. And it's very tactical. It's very deliberate. And it shows, sorry, one last thing. And then Ben, you can jump in, but I just love your essays. So I'm going to keep gassing it up. It also shows like, not only that, but what I love about this is it's not one-sided. It's not, I'm just going to get to GSB and I'm going to take. The GSB and all AdComs are trying to make a cohesive class of people who bring different things to the table in very different ways. And this essay not only says, here's what I'm going to get out of it, but here's things I'm going to bring. I'm going to plan the sustainability summit and I'm going to bring these speakers in. I'm going to bring my research background to help do these things. Like I'm going to be a part of clubs. I'm going to show myself, and it shows where you fit on campus so they can really see how it works.
I love it. I love it. And guys, this is one of the essays I would say is an outline come to life in a good way. At first, this essay read pretty stilted. Things were described a little vaguely. She had things in there like talk and touchy-feely and startup garage. A lot of stuff, by the way, all fair game. But the stuff that isn't in here is the stuff that we stripped away and we said, anybody could write that. Anybody could talk about that. What are the specific things that you're going to take advantage of given what you care about? And it doesn't make sense for her to have talk on here necessarily in lieu of a very, very specific resource. And so why I say this is an outline come to life. First paragraph, anchor me in your value prop. Perfect. Second paragraph, give me the academics. Third, give me some of the flagship things you're going to do that are a little bit beyond the pale. Stuff that you're going to do that's crossover with other school. 4, talk about how you're going to bring your research influence to bear on the school. And then lastly, what are those flagship extracurriculars that you're going to take advantage of that make sense for your background? It's not just, hey, I want to do the VC club on campus. And it's not even, I just want to do the impact fund. It's a specific team and vertical within the impact fund that pairs directly to her background. I cannot emphasize enough how unchat GPT-able this essay is.
It's crazy.
And the best thing is I can just say, go use it. You can use it as much as you want. You're literally not going to get in. So this is what it takes.
And I think just the last thing, so we can keep going, because I think two things. Just first on this, it's like 100%. And I think this is like, for me, the hardest thing. Like as somebody who didn't feel like I had accessible resources for figuring out things about schools, I didn't know anyone who had gone to GSB at the time. I didn't know these things. Like this is what's a little bit tough. So the two things I'll say is like, one, there's a bit of an unfair thing, but if you sit with me and Ben for 30 minutes, like you sit with somebody who knows GSB, you sit with a coach who knows GSB, we can help you, you know, the things you want to do, and we can get you there. But what I want to say to people who might be more budget constrained, who don't have a coach, who don't know people, is one, there's always LinkedIn. People at GSB and at every business school love to talk about themselves. So you can always reach out to them with like a kind ask, just asking about their experience. You're not asking them to write something for you, to do whatever, but you get them lit up. If you have a similar background, they'll start to say the things that really mattered to them at the school. And then thirdly, it's my favorite that's developed in the past years since I applied, is now every single top MBA program and every MBA program has like literal influencers who are on TikTok, who are on YouTube, who have their own podcasts, who bring students on to talk about their experiences as real students. They take you on a day in the life. They take you on all these things. And so it's really important. Like there's so many ways to get this level of specificity. It's a little tough just trying to go onto the website. So get scrappy, get creative, and do that. The last thing I'll say that will take us straight into the next one, if it's next, it might be last, is she also defined her wrong direction. Oh, sorry. Then can you go to the vision and goals? I want to skip to. She defined her vision and goals very clearly. She has 255 characters, and she used some of her YGSB to make sure that she fleshed this out in a way that is strong. She gave the basically like explanation of this sentence in her YGSB, which is great. So it doesn't feel like it's floating. It makes this sentence right here that Ben's about to read you feel super aligned and explained and not random.
Yeah, guys, because post GSB, this person is going to specialize in product development and operations for a tech company like NVIDIA. And I'm not surprised. And then we'll move laterally into a department like their environmental and supply chain innovation team to design solutions advancing responsible sourcing. If she wasn't doing that or something similar to it, I'd kind of be surprised at this point in the application, right? It flows naturally. It's so obvious and palpable from the things that she's described so far, from her experiences and the way she envisions herself on campus. But let's also see how she made the most of those impact essay spaces, because these aren't always the most obvious things to approach. Because this is, first off, ignore the fact that I didn't change the prompt at the top, but basically these essays are allowing you to define impact however that manifests for you, which is, for some people, great. Open-ended essay, I can put whatever in there, but for some people, it's almost a problem. They almost wish they had a more specific question to answer.
My brain literally exploded.
Yeah. So you guys can use this space as you like, but I think a nice mix is not all professional, not all personal, not all stuff that we can find on your resume, but also not all stuff that we can't find on your resume. A nice mix of those is usually good. Do we want to get into these? Because there are 3, and this person, being the most proactive person ever, obviously wrote all 3.
Yeah. And I think what's amazing is, and just to quickly, we'll read through them or at least get through as many as we can, but I'm immediately already looking, right? The first one, it's another nod back to Middlebury College. We got a little glimpse, like, okay, Middlebury College was a time in their life that they did things. This is already immediately showing, oh, I get to expand and show a new thing about Middlebury. We'll get onto that. Number 2, I see Elevated Advisors. It's a double click into the work that they mentioned in their What Matters Most. It's so well, it's almost like hyperlinked out, where you could click on Elevated Advisors in their What Matters Most, boom, impact essay. You could click on Middlebury, here's another experience, and you can start to see it more. And so I just want to say that, like, even just the jump, you can see how cohesively these are. They're not the same. We're going to read through them, but they're linked so well that the admissions comm doesn't have to go like, wait, where did this come from? Like, what is this? But we're about to learn a ton. So Ben, you want to read Impact 1?
Yeah. So at Middlebury, I joined Global Shapers, an initiative born out of the World Economic Forum, uniting young adults to solve local community challenges. When I first joined the hub, I noticed that the organization was composed primarily of Middlebury students. Given this team is intended to be broadly reflective of the community, I wanted to expand its membership beyond Middlebury. During my second year as a shaper, I was elected vice curator. In this role, I drove the redesign of our member recruitment strategy to emphasize bringing on members of the broader community. I led targeted outreach and by posting flyers downtown and asking Middlebury professors to tap into their established community networks. Ultimately, we recruited a new class of 8 shapers, 5 of whom were local residents. With our new cohort, we launched several projects building on shapers' skills and passion areas, including developing a 5-day media literacy curriculum for Middlebury high school students. A little bit repetitive at the beginning, guys. I'll give you that. A little bit. I would go back and shape shift a few of these sentences. I would. No application's perfect. But this, again, unsurprising, right? This is a person who is dedicated to doing this. Go ahead.
My only feedback to this, I think it's amazing. Totally hear you on this. When you can free up the word count, it's an amazing opportunity to show the, like, what you learned or how this has shaped you or the kind of moving forward thing. So my only feedback here, which is exactly what you said, is we got to this amazing thing of, like, there's no doubt impact was made. Is there, like, some quick, like, higher level takeaway or learning that we could add on, make it tighter up top, add in this takeaway that shows it's not impact in a vacuum, it's impact like a way that they work, something that they learn.
Or quantify it, right? Or like give me a few more numbers, like how many students were enrolled in Middlebury High School that you worked with? What are the forecasts for the future? Is this a one-off program, or do you have things teed up? Are you the type of person to make sure that the initiatives that you put into practice have a staying power beyond your involvement? So that might have been a reallocation.
But great. Number 2, and also keep chatting if you want, but we'll go on to 2 so we can get you guys as much bang for your buck. Number 2, I joined Elevated Advisors in 2021 during the COVID-19 pandemic. A few months later, I collaborated closely with our SF office head. I would have literally been SF office head to save some space to design a new office model. I interviewed staff to understand their needs and priorities when returning to the office post-COVID. Employees expressed a strong desire to have work from home flexibility. Given Elevate was also weathering a difficult year financially, I recommended leasing out our San Francisco office space and joining a WeWork to save on office costs. I ran regular check-ins with staff to proactively identify challenges with our new model and leveraged company-wide surveys to track employee satisfaction over time. After we transitioned to our new office model, I noticed that employee satisfaction in San Francisco office remained below average. To boost morale, I organized dinners and volunteer days for us to connect meaningfully despite not having a permanent office space. I also hosted alumni events for staff to feel more connected to the Elevate Bay Area community. We improved employee satisfaction, recruited 12 new employees, and improved our bottom line.
It's great. Very straightforward, very to the point. It's not trying to talk about 400 things. This is just a back to office situation. How did we facilitate this? Staying focused on one experience. All right. Want to do number 3?
Yep.
All right.
Oh, you got it.
Sure. Paying forward to a community that offered me mentorship at a crucial point in my life is core to who I am. When I was asked to join the Bay Area Middlebury chapter, I immediately noticed a gap in opportunities offered to current students, opportunities I wish I had as a student. Upon joining, I proposed we create a mentorship program that matched current students with alumni who are actually relevant to a given student's goals post-graduation. Guidance for a tricky, ambiguous job application process proved a high-demand offering, and we soon saw email after email from high-intent students interested in being paired up. Since its inception in 2023, we've worked directly with 56 students and are just as enthusiastic about rolling this out to a much greater scale in the coming months. Our 2024 projections estimate pairing 150 plus students. We've already exceeded 2023 totals this calendar year. While our mentorship offerings now extend well beyond career-focused guidance, helping students select the right classes for them, find study abroad and research opportunities, and apply for scholarships. Acknowledging the double width immediately, guys. This is me typing it in correctly into Canva, not personally submitting it. So what do we think worked here, Claire?
I think so much worked. I want to just pull back. And I am curious, like, I think everyone has personal opinions. If you want to in the chat, just let me know, like, which of these 3 worked really well for you guys? Like, what was your favorite? I'm just curious. I won't say mine until the end. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, like that. Thanks, my translator. But I think these all worked so well. The other thing that I love is that without expressly saying it, they were so well linked to the what matters most. Every single one of these had something about listening, about getting feedback, about taking action on feedback. And it was like a real strong showing from like just talking about being the one who listens really well and listens deeply to somebody who listens, implements, listens again, and implements again in a way that didn't feel redundant between the 3. But consistently, like if you asked me what came out for me and like what this person is, I know that they're action oriented. I know that they're like feedback driven. And I know that there's somebody who takes pride in supporting others and giving voice to others. And that's exactly what their whole what matters most was saying. And so again, it's like, these are not fully repetitive. This is all new information relatively to what I've seen before, but it's giving me this like additional thing. It's giving a little bit of bite to their bark. And I think that they're just like really strongly focused on impact and again, just like really well done.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to integrate a couple answers to a couple questions in the chat and also just quickly say, to give you guys an idea, this second impact essay was in this person's letter of recommendation because one of her direct supervisors is also a person who worked at the place where this back office model was taking place. So in the letter of recommendation, they touched on not only the professional and clear casework that this person had advanced at the firm, but also the types of stuff and the type of person she is outside and beyond the scope of her responsibilities. So going a little bit beyond the job to make something happen for her company writ large, and that goes a long way. So this impact essay number 2 especially is not sitting in isolation. Claire, I don't know about you, but just to round this out also, number 3 was my favorite. I don't know where you landed. Yeah? Yeah. And I think the reason is it's a little bit more fleshed out. It's got that right balance between quality and quantity in terms of the types of things that they're trying to achieve. And I would just say as well, just to answer these last couple of questions, I would absolutely take advantage of all 3 of these impact essays. These are 3 spaces that you have to write whatever the heck you want to write about, basically. Don't leave it on the table. It's free. And I would also just quickly say that, Alyssa, a good question. This person was not a recent graduate, but actually, if you kind of think back to the other essays that we saw in their application, yes, they referenced their thesis and the type of work that evolved out of their honors program. But largely their descriptions involved a lot of personal and a lot of very professional experiences later in her career. So she used these impact essays to pay a little homage to some of the stuff she did in college. But a great question.
The last thing I'll say too that I think I really like about this third one is it's value driven too. Paying forward to the community that offered me mentorship. It learned so much in one sentence about what they value, about their like emphasis on community and about who they are there. And so I think this was it. Again, like one just practical tip I have is as you're editing, you're on V18, V12, you're going to have anecdotes and things that you've just cut. And what I say to everyone is never press delete or I version up every time. So I'm never losing the writing I've done. Like that first draft, I'm like, do not delete anything. Just like move it to the bottom.
Mhm.
And then what you're going to realize is like, these aren't like scraps, but the things that you wanted to say, but just didn't fit perfectly in are super helpful. No matter how much time my clients are always kind of rushing their impact essays. And Ben said he did this in 48 hours. Like, the impact essays are a great one to just like, as you go through, you're like, what are the things I wanted to say, but didn't get to say? And then I just think this is like, has been an amazing showing. Thank you, Ben, for sharing an amazing, amazing client who hopefully picked GSB. This is how essays work together. They are so important. Like one essay is not going to be the thing that gets you in or out, but the essays together as being your chance to give your voice to your resume, to your experiences, to your recommenders. This is the thing that can set you apart and make you, you. These admissions committees, we've spoken to all of them. We know a bunch of the people in them. They are the ones who like, they're looking for a class. They're not looking for individuals. They're looking for how people work together, who they are, and how they can build on the class's composition and what they can do to like bring things. So I just love thinking about it holistically. And that's what I think both Ben and I do. Thanks for putting that up. That's what Ben and I do. And so we are both coaches. We're just opening up our book, or we're just working on our books for round one. They are closing quickly because we do want to give everyone as much like time as they can have. So we do cap the amount of clients that we take, but we both have space available. If this is something that you want to partner on, I couldn't recommend it more. And we are always, always happy to be helpful. We're both giving 10% off this week alone for anyone who wants to book us. To work together. And also just, coaching is an amazing, amazing opportunity. It's something that I wish I'd taken advantage of more had I been able to. And I think it's in a really amazing process that if you so choose, Ben is like the best guy to do it. I'm lucky to be on a call with him and I'm lucky to work alongside him. But there are amazing Leland coaches across the board, and just recommend you taking the time like you are today to invest in yourself, to invest in your journey. And really, truly, we're always here if you need us.
Yeah. And guys, we also want to acknowledge and say very clearly, coaching is an investment. We know this. It's an investment of money, time, and energy. And we respect and understand that. And our kind of MO, I think, as we go through this process is that you feel incredibly supported, both tactically and honestly, emotionally, guys. Claire, I don't know about you. I was wrecked. When I was going through this process, I was working a bajillion hours a week. I was sleeping in the mayor's office. It was crazy. And this MBA thing, honestly, to some degree, just made me feel like I had no time. So the point in sharing that is that we've been there. We understand what this is like, and we're not too far removed from these application processes ourselves. We also respect that it's an investment. And to that end, we try to make it abundantly worth it, so that if you do invest in working together, you feel like, oh yeah, this was so obviously and clearly worth our time and helped me get a leg up as I went through this application process. If nothing else, to do it with a fraction of the stress. So thank you guys for joining. We hope this was helpful.
This is so fun. Thank you guys all. Hope it's amazing. If you need to take a quick pick of our things, these 15-minute intro calls are to specifically talk about what coaching might look like for you. We'll be doing more free events in the future. So for like more of like the feedback or the AMA Q&As, those are more for free events. These are for more if you're looking to think about coaching in the long run, but feel free to scan us. Hope to see some of you guys at future events. And it's been so lovely. Yes. And there is a session coming up. So have fun, have a long day, good day, and we'll see you all soon.
Awesome. See you guys.